being discriminated and filtered on YouTube, and I'm not the only one. And if you go and check my videos, you see that my new videos hardly get views, and my old videos that used to get many views stop getting views. So this is because I'm being filtered. Never talk about your own beliefs. Otherwise, you will be discriminated and censored. Growing on YouTube is not in your hands. It all depends on who is controlling your channel. If she or he likes your videos, then they will let your videos get views. Otherwise,
welcome back, guys. So continuing on with the YouTube story of the young lady that went to the headquarters and started unloading at the place because she was upset that her views were dropped. She actually ended up taking her own life as a result. We've got Mr. AlfonZo Rachel with us on the phone lines all the way from sunny California. Zo Rachel, how we doing, sir?
I'm doing well, boss. How you doing?
Not too shabby. It's not too shabby. So what are your thoughts on this whole situation with regards to this YouTube killer?
Man, you know, this is difficult to do with that. And you know, and I'm known for being a pretty decent communicator, man, but this is difficult because, you know, I definitely don't want to come off as insensitive, man. That's not really where I want to go with this, but it's, you know, it's because one of the things that you have to fight back with this is the notion to say, hey, I told you so, you know, and you know, and I don't want to sound insensitive when I say that, man. I'm not trying to be facetious or anything like that, but it really kind of brings that in. It's like, you know, you can't be messing with people's livelihood like this. You know, this is YouTube. YouTube has purposely been affecting views. Facebook does it too. Twitter does it. Google does it. They all do it. And you can't keep doing that sort of stuff without expecting people to snap. And here's the kicker, man. That snap is going to come in your backyard. You know, they've been trying to paint us so-called right-wingers as these people who are violent, and we're the NRA and we're a terrorist organization and stuff like that. If you look at the record of these liberals, it's always a Democrat or left-winger that goes and commits mass murder or politically motivated violence or something that's at odds with their narrative. So this is happening right in their backyard. And it's like, dude, what kind of wake-up call do you guys need? The irony here is just too thick that one of their own who shares their ideology would go in there and start shooting up people and then sadly take their own life. You know, that's
exactly.
You know, get cool, man.
What do you think is going to be the fallout as a result of this? Now, I don't know how they're spinning this in the American media, because obviously I don't see it as much as you probably do. The way that I'm seeing it is essentially much like you said, chickens coming home to roost. So what is going to, do you think, as obviously you won't know, but what do you think is going to happen as a result of this? Do you think Facebook or YouTube is going to change the way they do business?
Man, I tell you what, I'm admittedly a bad predictor of things, but I let me answer it like this. I've known my share of alcoholics, drug addicts, who have, you know, run in with their ODs, ended up in the hospital, been in car accidents and stuff like that. Guess how many of them actually stopped with their lifestyle?
Zero.
After such a wake-up call, you know, of what drugs will do to you, what alcohol will do to you. You know, for some reason, they just don't get it, and they still kind of keep doing it. And at some point, man, we don't know what it takes that makes it click. You know, it could be like the most horrific it could be your best friend dying. And a person will use that as an excuse, man, I need to escape the pain. I lost my best friend to drugs. Here, give me that heroin so I can shoot up so I can forget about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, even with this, bro, I don't know. I don't know if this was enough.
Do you think that there is a solution to all this? Do you think there's anything that we can do about it? Because I know admittedly I pulled my Facebook account off after the Cambridge thing, and only because of my need to promote certain things, I have to keep that stupid profile up, and I hate
Right.
it. I hate it. Do you think there is a solution to this, or is it just going to continue on to operate the way that it does?
Well, unfortunately, man, it is going to get worse. And man, I don't want to be a cynic, man. I'm not trying to be, a Debbie Downer and stuff like that, man. But that's just the course of it. We're dealing with people who are given to want to believe like stuff like this, and they really believe that what they that their worldview is right. And even when something like that, I mean, because like I said earlier, man, look at the track record. Over and over again, when these things happen, it comes from a left wing snap. It always does, and it's like, and we're trying to tell them, but what's their response to that? They still want to paint us right wingers as the culprits. It's the NRA, it's the Christians, it's the Republicans. We're to blame for it. We're the ones to blame because we stand for our Second Amendment right. So we're to blame for it over and over again. The solution of it is, man, really, it's a reception, it's a willingness, because we see that people are willing to believe a lie. Something has to switch where people are ready to believe truth. I don't know how to turn that button on, bro.
Right.
That's a miracle. That's the Lord, dude.
Right.
That's only if a person is going to receive and say, "Hey, I want truth," and that's really what it comes down to. Scientifically, is there a scientific answer or a method, dude? I don't know. We've been at this for thousands of years, so I don't know.
What if maybe somebody developed a website similar to a YouTube or a Facebook, but it was controlled by somebody on, say, the other side of the political spectrum? Do you think maybe that might be a viable option, or are they just too big at this point?
I wouldn't say it's a point of them being too big. It can be done, man. It can be done. It would take a lot of finesse. It would be a very diligent. I mean, this is needless to say, but it needs to be said. It would be a very diligent effort, and it would take a lot of finesse to do it. One thing about Facebook, man, is Facebook and MySpace stole a lot of thunder with the social media aspect, because everybody's all caught up now. It's like all your college buddies and your military buddies and high school buddies, it's all caught up. That was one of the biggest appeal. Hey, I found you, man. I haven't talked to you in like 20 years or something like that. That's all taken care of. So really, what other social media could you really put out there that would have that kind of appeal? And if it was like, let's say, for instance, a right wing, I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but let's say, for instance, there was like another alternative. Dude, it would be so boring. It would be it would just be a bicker fest of like, each person trying to play the high priest of conservative. That would suck. I wouldn't want that either. But honestly, man, just to get down to it, I think what people need to realize that, dude, nothing's free. And the rug has been pulled up from people who wanted to enjoy something for free. And I'm one of the worst offenders. I've done it too. It's like hoping that I could use this. It's like, dude, if we want to enjoy something like that and be able to put it down and say, look, this is the service that I paid for, and you are not to mess with it. We have a contract. And I think that may be the way it goes. And if you want to enjoy social media and actually have a legitimate gripe with a company who is denying you the service that you paid for, it may just be where it's like, look, you want to subscribe to this social media, it's going to cost you this much per year.
I get that. That makes perfect sense, because you had this issue with your YouTube shows, because you've got tons of followers and your views have dropped considerably. Yeah. Have there been any type of rectification of that, or is it still something that you're battling the YouTuber gods with?
I'm still battling with it, man. It's sometimes I have spurts, but it's too inconsistent to keep it going. And people say, well, why don't you file a lawsuit? I mean, because I think about it, it's like, it is discrimination, it is harassment. But at the same time, and people will argue that it's a public service. Well, it's not a public service. I mean, when I pay for my communication line, that's one thing. What I do with that communication, that's something else. I don't pay to use Facebook. I don't pay to use YouTube or anything like that. So it's not like they're obliged to give me my ideal service. So I take that into consideration. I'm not this litigious-minded person who wants to get out there and sue them. If I had the money and resources and time to do that, dude, I would invest in a viable competitor. So you're right on the money. There should be that. But I'm all I can do is just continue to try to push and because their objective is to make people forget about them. Because when you're out of sight, out of mind, you know, people forget about you fast. I mean, that's why Coca-Cola, as famous as they are, they still make commercials.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. Well, I appreciate you coming in or coming on to the phone and talking to us about this issue. We were talking about something different before that. If you've got another minute, we'd like to hold you over and ask you about that as well. We were talking about gun law, and obviously over here in the UK, they don't have the right to carry concealed weapons at all, and the crime rate has risen, and Liam here has statistics that he's been holding out on us and not sharing with us. But it's statistically you're less safe here than you are in New York City. And I was explaining, or New York State, and I was explaining that because of the new laws that were implemented and things that were put into place in New York, that might have played a part in the change that took place. So what were some of the stats that you had over there?
Well, essentially, in February and March, London was more dangerous than New York from just a pure, you know, looking at it, more people were killed. Police dealt with more homicides in London than they did in New York. But then, when you kind of go deeper into the statistics, you still see that New York in general is a more dangerous place to be. I don't know, for example, in 2017, homicide rate per 100,000 people in the population stood at 1.2 in London and 3.4 in New York. So, you know, London may have a couple of bad months. In general, New York is still considered, is still statistically a more dangerous place, but
that's just looking at one type of crime.
That's just looking at homicides. But yeah, it's obviously, I think if we introduce guns here, if this is what the crime statistics are similar to this now, if we were to allow people to have guns here, London will become a lot more of a dangerous place.
Imagine the roadmen. Imagine.
Okay, so I'm trying to pose this as a question for Zoe. So, do you feel that the reason that the crime levels are what they are because that we have the right to carry a weapon in the United States versus not? I was arguing the point that somebody with a knife, you're far less likely to know that you're about to be attacked versus somebody with a gun. And for one, and not to mention the fact that if somebody wants to do harm to you, they're going to do it regardless. And that's evident by people that are driving these cars into groups and crowds of people.
Well, look, well, my goodness, man. Let me see if I can address a policy like that in less than 4 minutes.
Yeah, no. You've got 9 minutes.
All right. You're exactly right, man. It's like, look, and because people they assume that with this gun that you have a more effective, a more expedient means to kill people. It's like that is hardly true. It's like you don't want to get rid of the guns, because if you get rid of the guns, if somebody wants to kill somebody, they want to kill people on a mass scale, they're going to resort to something worse. I mean, you might as well go ahead and ban pressure cookers and fertilizer.
Fertilizer. I was going to say that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you know, and the thing is, man. So if somebody really has that in their mind to do, you know, let me put it like this: there's something about the gun that people they have this. I mean, liberals love to throw around phobia so much. I think that we should call it gun phobia. They want to bring up words like transphobia and homophobia and Islamophobia. No, they got gun phobia. It's like actually they have freedom phobia because they're afraid of the things that helps to protect our freedoms. But it's like this, man. What would you? Let me give you one of those. What do they call it? Not trivial questions, but I don't know, scruples questions or something like that. What would you prefer to be bitten by? Would you prefer to be bitten by a Rottweiler, or would you prefer to be bitten by a tarantula?
I prefer not to be bitten. But if I had to have the choice, I'd probably prefer to be bitten by. Yeah, that's a tough one.
You got to think about that, huh?
Tarantula has to be on you to bite you.
Yeah, but that's like a neurotoxin too, though, isn't it? So it's gonna affect. Well, tarantulas aren't venomous, though, are they?
I don't give a shit.
I get what you're saying, but I think I'm breaking it down into a scientific level that's not even conducive to your point.
Like off the top of your head, if you were to let somebody to take like a one of those bird-eating tarantulas, right? If somebody was to take a tarantula and say, I'm going to take this tarantula, I'm going to put it on you, and I'm going to let it bite you, or or you can be bitten by my Rottweiler. Which one would you prefer?
I fucking hate spiders, so I choose the Rottweiler.
Okay. Now, the Rottweiler obviously is going to do significantly more damage.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm not standing anywhere near a tarantula.
And this is the same thing that it is with the gun. People have this phobia of the gun. The gun is doing far less damage than car accidents, overdoses, knife assaults. Guns are actually saving more lives than they're taking. But for some reason, people have this stigma about the gun. It's the same way as being bitten by a tarantula or a Rottweiler.
Some people might argue that point about the knife. I agree with you, and I definitely know that when we look at the broad spectrum of things, especially in the United States, most people that have guns and that legitimately have the gun don't go around killing people with the gun. So, right. And if I have somebody breaking into my home, or if there's an intruder or a situation where I need to defend myself, them having the gun and me not having the gun doesn't benefit me at all. And the idea of making a gun illegal, especially in the United States, England, this is a completely different, a bag of fruit, and that's not a real saying. I just made that up.
You just made I like that, man.
I just made that up because that's how I roll. But
I like fruit statements. Yeah, that's good.
So, but in America, if we take the guns away from the law-abiding citizen, that doesn't remove the gun from the criminal element at all.
Why? Because they'd still keep it whether it's legal or not.
It's too late now. It's too late to change it like that.
No, I don't think that it's a matter of too late for it to be changed. You have to think about it in the broader spectrum. They don't get their guns from the gun shop. They're not buying their guns, and they're not registering their guns. And the amount of guns that come up through that southern border with these drugs, and that's a whole nother argument. Drugs have been illegal, but I can still smoke pot if I wanted to smoke pot or do coke. It's I can get it if I want it. Same thing with the gun. But the cartels are bringing this stuff up through the southern border. Okay, so there's a whole nother problem that is in existence with regards to this gun and the illegal guns. These gang members that are on the streets that are shooting at each other in Chicago, LA, and in every other city in the country aren't going to the gun shows. And I mean, maybe, but not the majority of them are buying them from their friends that are getting them from illegal outlets. So
right. And what is the scope of when they want these guns banned? What is the scope of that? I mean, are they talking about the ceasing of manufacture? Because just like you said, man, they're gonna get the guns. The only way you cannot get the guns if the manufacturing of them is stopped. That's the only way, because they're gonna get them.
Well, I don't. Go ahead.
Well, I was just asking. I mean, what is their? I mean, they're very diligent, but I think that they're very naive with this pursuit of banning guns. It's like, well, how do you expect to do that? Because just like you said, man, the criminal is going to get the gun, while leaving everybody else defenseless. That doesn't even makes man, what the fruit? Speaking of being able to use fruit in a saying, it's like, what the fruit, man? It doesn't work. So I'm just asking, to what extent are they talking about banning guns?
Well, I guess it would probably, and these cats that I'm sat across are rather young, so they might not know this, but they had guns, obviously, that were legal here at one point in this country, and they got rid of the guns. Do you know what steps were put into place in order to eliminate the guns from? And obviously, people still have guns. There was just a shooting. Was it a girl?
People still get them illegally. Yeah.
Right.
I know that for example, in Australia, when they banned assault weapons, they did a buyback scheme, but obviously not everyone's just going to handily just give over their gun back, and even if they're giving over a generous, amount of money for it, whatever it is, I don't know, whatever it is, but even if they're giving over a generous amount, if someone wants to, obviously, someone's thinking, I can get $1,000, for example, for this gun today if I give it back to the government, but I can mug people and make $5,000 in a week if I keep it. So like it's almost more beneficial for me money-wise, especially if I know that everyone else in the country has given over their guns. And suddenly I'm 10 steps over you now. Like that's
like a fucked up mindset. That's not regular Joe.
Well, yeah, but the people that are doing these things aren't exactly regular anyway, are they? That's the kind of the point. But what I would say is, while everyone like I get the whole point that like if someone wants to do something bad, they're just going to do it. Like, you know, if you in England you can't get a gun, so you're going to rent a car and you're just going to mow over some people on the pavement just in London on a bridge somewhere. What I would say though is that if you can get guns reasonably easily, you've got something that's actually designed as a weapon that you can get and use more frequently. That's what.
Well, but that's the thing. That's the irony of it. A gun is designed to kill people. That's what it's for. But at the same time, when you have a car that's designed to transport people, it's not designed to kill people, but is actually it causes more death than the instrument that's for killing people. I mean, that's a serious case of irony right there. But before I forget though, Joseph, you were asking like, what does this lead to? And I wanted to get your take on this, man, because I got some heat, in the shooting concern that David Hogg has been all over the news about, and it looks as if these youngsters are being used to promote an agenda, and there's just something about their jovial demeanor. It's like, dude, if you guys are like saying that you just saw your friends get annihilated, man. And you guys are getting ready to go on TV, guys. You guys are laughing and joking. There doesn't seem to be any look of reflection or anything like that in your face. And there's something that seems very staged about this. And I'm not much for conspiracy theories. I think you enjoy, entertaining conspiracy theories a little bit more than I do. But have you noticed that there seems to be a lot more, there's more mass shootings, and there's more, and the second it happens, you have these left-wingers who capitalize, who jump on it, they swarm on it like vultures, and they try to push their policy. Do you think there's something to the possibility that some of this stuff is being staged? That people are I'm talking about disposable people, bro. I'm talking about people being put up to this. And people say, oh, how could you say that about the children? It's like, dude, do you realize how many kids we abort? Do you realize how many people have used children to either sell drugs or take over a community or sell death to other people, that people will use children to promote an agenda? Is that so strange to think about?
You just introduced a whole nother episode.
The whole kind of works.
You're talking about your 4 minutes to explain policy. This goes all the way back to 9/11. Okay, so we fall in my opinion as humans in general under this normalcy bias. So things are what they are, and we expect things to be what they are until something absolutely catastrophic or insane happens, like airplanes flying into buildings or little kids going into schools with assault rifles and mowing down their classmates, a la Columbine and every subsequent school shooting. I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility that maybe there is some sort of agenda at play here. Now, I know that you can use these events as reasons to eliminate, or try to use it as a reason to eliminate, these weapons in your society. And that's exactly what happened over here in the UK. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that was in 1990, I believe it was. And it was a school shooting as well, or a shooting of children. I don't recall. These guys are looking at me blank stares. They probably weren't even born in 1990. So this is how old I am.
You were.
So it's so yes, I agree with you that is a potential possibility. I haven't followed that situation in the States because, to me, it gets me worked up. It gives me tons of footage to do shows on, but I don't know, and I don't know enough to say or have the access to get the information to say, yes, this is what's happening, or yes, that's a crisis actor, and I saw him on the last school shooting, you know?
Right.
And when I see that, I see it, and I don't know how anybody can dispute that this person is in 2 videos, okay? And how you can say that there's not something right about that, especially as an actor. It's a reasonable
question, right?
Right. I mean, so I know that it happens and that people get hired in to do this type of stuff. Some of the stuff that I've been hired to do as an actor, I used to be a crash test dummy. Okay, so every time, exactly. So every time you get into a Dodge Durango and your head doesn't run into the windshield during an accident, send your thank you letters to me. Because when I lived in Detroit, I used to go to Daimler Chrysler, and that's what we used to do. And they used to have cameras set up all around this car, and I used to simulate being in an accident. Right. And I used to simulate what my head would be like running into the dashboard, simulate what it would be like for my hands to be running through my non-existent hair. You know, all of that is what took place. So You're a real headbanger. Exactly, right? So I was all about the metal back then, baby. So so I know that these jobs probably exist, and I don't put it past or any government to use major events to further an agenda or a situation or to get something that they want. So I don't think that it's not out of the possible realms.
Wow. Well, I'm with you, man. I'm with that, and I think that was a very. I could have just left you guys to just go ahead and, like, you know, I give you that question and say, okay, now you guys go ahead and talk amongst yourself. You know? not even. So that's where we are on that. I would love to keep you on. I have like at least another 4 topics to throw at you. But next time, whenever you're available, sir, we'd love to have you back on. I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's past our time here. We're running over, so we're gonna let you go. But thank you, Zo Rachel, for coming on the show. And you guys out there, check out. Where can people find you right now, Zo? Thanks, man, and thanks for your patience, guys. I really appreciate you having me on and putting up with me. And it's bronzeserpentmedia.com.
Right on. Perfect. Check that out. We got the link on the bottom of the screen there. Give Zo a shout. Check out his videos. And thanks for tuning in. And Zo, thanks for calling in. And we will be right back after this break.